Britain is not El Dorado. Can't believe I have to say that, but that's what the migrants crossing the channel illegally, invading this country, seem to think. And so I guess it's worth pointing out that this is not some sort of Shangri-La that you can just come over like some Spanish conquistador and plunder. Again, not a great framing, really, but this is not my framing. As The Sun reported back in September, when Priti Patel said, well, we're going to turn them back, the migrants are like, we don't care, we're coming anyway, which, again, sounds like an invasion force to me. I mean, literally sounds like what Philip of Macedon said to the Spartans.
We're coming whether you like it or not.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's probably what, the message that William the Conqueror sent to Harold Godwinson.
Yeah.
So hundreds of them were in Calais, and the Sun sent a journalist down to speak to some of them. And so they visited Iranian engineer Ahmed, who's 29. Don't recall there being a war in Iran, but maybe he's gay or something, right? No, he was there with his wife. Okay, so he's not gay. So him and his wife have just turned up in Calais. What are you doing there? Why? You're not a refugee from anything. So he said, is it true? Are they really going to turn the boats back? Pfft, no. God, no, I wish, We have paid €2,000 each to get to Britain. Well, that was a mistake. You shouldn't have done that.
I'll ask for your money back.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have the receipt from the people traffickers? What will happen now? If we are in trouble, they will have to rescue us. They can't just leave us in the sea. Right, so they're playing on our notions of decency and fair play. Because, I mean, I can't help but think that if I was trying to get into Iran illegally, they probably would just leave me in the sea. But the point is, they're not refugees and they're not fleeing from a war, right? He says, I will just use a knife to make a hole in the boat and then they will have to save us and take us to Britain.
Well, that would work, sadly, wouldn't it?
I mean, it's literally like holding a gun to your own head, saying, look, take me in or I'll shoot. So, okay, what? This is mental, right? His wife said, we couldn't stay there. There were no opportunities. Oh, really? So everyone in Iran is just deeply impoverished and can't get a job? Is that the case? Of course that's not the case. We want to work. We want to have a life. We're willing to work. Okay, go back to Iran.
Or stay in France.
Well, yeah, stay in France is another opportunity. Yeah, they don't have any money in France either. But a local French MP called Pierre-Henri Demont, probably not pronouncing that right, but anyway, said the migrants will not stop coming to Britain as they see it as their, quote, El Dorado. Who put that idea in their heads? Who told them that Britain was just this land of plenty where the streets are paved with gold?
Yeah, but why does that give them the inalienable right to go wherever they like?
Yeah. I mean, literally, that's the opinion of the Spanish conquistadors. Well, this new world's just our El Dorado. I mean, literally, we're going to steal everything they have. That was the framing, and you're adopting that same framing. That's very interesting. He didn't think that Priti Patel's plan of turning them back would be workable, as is against maritime law. And he said, I sympathise with the British taxpayers because they see themselves paying for a service. This is a service, is it? And not getting anything in return. But this is a problem that will not go away overnight and is something the British government has to address the causes as well as not just the consequences. Right. The causes of Iranians leaving Iran. I'm pretty sure the last time we did that it was called imperialism. Do you want us to go and install another Shah or something? Is that what was being asked for here? We're doing the best with the manpower we have available. Our job is to prevent the channel from becoming a graveyard. Is it our job to prevent people from needlessly risking their lives doing something illegal?
No.
I don't think it is. Yeah. In France. Again, not like in Britain. Maybe if it was in Britain, you could be like, oh, maybe that is one of our responsibilities. But maybe that's not our job. Maybe that's the French job. And so obviously this recklessness, again, it just sounds like colonial adventuring to me. Like they're like, oh, we're going to sail around the world and see if we can plunder some stuff from the natives. Well, unsurprisingly, this ends in tragedies occasionally. So 27 migrants died after one of the boats sank crossing the channel. Not sure if one of them had a knife and punctured the boat on purpose or anything. But this is the single deadliest disaster on the, quote, busy route. Again, something like 25,000 have crossed this year, which is double what crossed last year, and who knows how many it'll be next year. The emergency services obviously went out and got them. It was originally recorded as 31 dead, but it was downgraded to 27 because 4 of them were saved. And Boris has urged France to step up efforts to stem the flow of migrants. They're doing it on purpose. Where do you think they're getting the boats, Boris? And we're paying the French £54 million a year, not to send them.
We're effectively paying the French to subject us to what word did the Polish use for what the Belarusians were doing?
Yes, hybrid warfare.
Hybrid warfare.
Yes.
That's effectively what this is.
Boris, you're a man who knows his English history. Did this work for Ethelred the Unready? Does paying off the Vikings cause more Vikings or fewer Vikings to come? Anyway, Macron said that France would not allow the Channel to become a cemetery, as he vowed to find out who's responsible for the deaths.
We'll stop them leaving then.
Yeah, the migrants who got on the boat are responsible for it, Macron. No great investigation needed here. Natasha Bouchard, the mayor of Calais, said, this is the fault of Boris Johnson. I mean, I don't really want to defend Boris Johnson, but I have to say, I don't actually think this is his fault, right? It's because he is forcing France to endure this setup because he doesn't have the courage himself to assume responsibilities in his country. This is incoherent. How is it Boris... wait, are you saying perhaps that maybe France is rightful English soil? Because there's an argument for that. Anyway, but obviously, this is not Boris's fault. These migrants do not have a right to invade England. They are not under the control of the British government. The French are doing this on purpose, and they should all be deported back to where they came from. Because from places like Iran, they're not refugees. Anyway, Enver Solomon, the chief executive of the Refugee Council, said, quote, this is a humanitarian disaster that should never have happened. It is incomprehensible that so many lives have been lost by people on a desperate and harrowing journey to Britain who are just trying to find safety. Surely a tragedy of this magnitude is the wake-up call our government needs to change its approach and finally commit to an expansion of safe routes for these men, women and children in desperate need of protection. How many more lives must be lost before we finally end the cruel and dangerous tactic of seeking to punish or push away those who try and find safety in our country? No, they should all be deported home. France should be deporting them. Not our problem, and I don't see why we should have any sympathy for people who are literally trying to break into our country.
There's often more incentives to stop them from leaving and putting themselves in peril in the first place.
Yes. Anyway, so Kent Online is a local newspaper for Kent, and they had posted something about this tragedy on their Facebook page, and a bunch of people responded with laugh reacts. Do you use Facebook?
I do.
So a bunch of people found this amusing. Not very nice. Cruel, in fact. But Kent Online decided to go on a bit of a witch hunt then and publicly shame those people. And they DM'd a bunch of them and asked them why they did it. Do you want to hear why?
Go ahead.
So one person they messaged was called Steve. He laughed, shamefully. Steve, who calls me a jumped up little S and tells me to jog on when I question him, wasn't alone. He was one of the 96 who chose to react to the news with the laughing emojis, whining about people on Facebook. Another person said, Chantel said she laughed because our country looks after illegals before our own people, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Seems to be true. No problem. It's a total joke, mate. Another one said, adding, thousands of murderers, rapists, terrorists are coming to our country daily. The government are traitors. Shockingly based. They are robbing our country left, right and centre, and they come from all parts and got no morals, don't like them, never will, they're scum. The journalist says that's an appalling explosion of hate and not backed up by any statistics whatsoever. And we didn't mention the Liverpool bomber once, or the murder of David Amis, or grooming gangs. But never mind, moving on. They say more than 200,000 refugees live in the UK compared to the 3.1 million living in Turkey, which has the most in the world. Last year, the UK received 36,000 asylum applications, the fifth highest number in Europe. Germany had 120,000, France had 93,000. The UK's intake was 17th in Europe per head of population. Okay, we need to get those numbers down. The numbers don't match the vision of a country under attack from invasions or even economic migrants. Says who? I mean, I would suggest that actually those are invader numbers. I mean, if William the Conqueror could take the country with 10,000 men, 36,000 seems fair enough. You know, it seems like a lot. I mean, there are definitely armies of that size that have conquered vast swathes of the globe before now. So,
and are they of fighting age and in fighting condition?
Yes, mostly.
Yeah.
Almost all of them, in fact, just so you know. Chatham Dad Steve said they should stay at home and stop the scum coming over here, or go through the right procedures, the scumbags. You can see how unbelievably upset people are that literally foreigners, don't know who any of them are, but mostly men, something like 80% of the men, are washing up on the shore and claiming taxpayer money. I'm not surprised they're angry. I'm angry too.
No.
Right? They're not supposed to seek refuge in the first. They are supposed to seek refuge in the first country. Not they travel to, not go through them to get to ours. all because because of all the some sort of swear word. My daughter can't get a doctor's appointment because there are too many of them here now, causing a strain on the NHS. There are veterans on the streets when they're being put up in hotels. But Steve is wrong. Asylum seekers do not have to claim refuge in the first country they arrive in. And that's true. We can go to the next one. This is apparently correct, as Full Fact went through the information. Under the Geneva Convention, refugees do not have to seek refuge in the first safe country they come to. The Geneva Convention contains no obligation, either explicit or implicit, for refugees to claim asylum in the first country they reach. This means that an asylum seeker can arrive in France or any other country before travelling to the UK and still legitimately claim to be a refugee. It is then down to the UK to review that application, but UK domestic law does allow the government to refuse to consider an asylum application if we judge that a person could have claimed asylum elsewhere. So the refugees who arrive in the UK after passing through the EU can, under certain circumstances, also be returned to that EU country. So we don't even need to worry about that. Like, weirdly, this actually reinforces our case. Sure, you didn't have to stop in the first country, but go home. End of story.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
We've got loads on there, and it's all really, really good. For example, we have regular premium articles that discuss contemporary events, and we have an audio track for our silver and gold tier members. And of course, we have our regular series on there. We've got Contemplations, which is Josh and whoever he wants to have talk to him about a particular topic. On this one, he's talking about Bo, about in-group preference. Moving on. Bo and myself also do the Epoch series, which says talking about history. This one's Belisarius Part 3, because Belisarius was a 6th century Byzantine general, and he had an amazing career and a genuinely tragic end. And the myth of him is old blind Belisarius begging on the streets of Rome would have been better than what happened to him, but I won't spoil it. I'll let you figure out. I'll let you find out. And of course, we do our regular book club as well this week's or this month's. I don't know how often we do them actually. Fairly regularly. It takes a while to read a book. But this is Callum doing John Stuart Mill's On Liberty, in which I rail against utilitarianism. I used to be a huge fan of John Stuart Mill, like 5-10 years ago. And since then, I've really soured on utilitarianism. And so the framing of his arguments, I find kind of insufferable. He's not wrong in what he's arguing for, but it's the way he's doing it. But anyway, we also do a bunch of premium podcasts, things that are entertaining, we think, like the politics of Star Trek that I did with John, talking about, well, is Star Trek a socialist paradise or not? It turns out it's not, but it's, it's something different. Post-scarcity liberalism, basically. But that's a really good podcast. And we also have to put up things on the website that we can't actually put on YouTube because YouTube has editorial policies about things such as where all these heart attacks are coming from. Giant elephant in the room. It's probably climate change. Don't worry about it. We also have fascinating interviews from really interesting people, such as this one, which is an activist called Luke Avery, who's a Christian, but don't worry, he's not Bible thumping in this. What he's doing is talking about the ancient wisdom in the biblical book of Proverbs, and it's very much daddish sort of stuff, and I really enjoyed doing this one. And I think I'll have him back in, hopefully, to do another one, Ecclesiastes or something, and hopefully we'll do another one soon.
And if you want to keep up with us, you can follow us on getter.com. I love the phrase and getter doing, something like that, I don't know.
You're doing really well on there, though, aren't you? You've got like 11,000 followers.
So come follow me on Getter, come follow you on Getter.
Yeah, and lotuseaters.com on Getter.
Lotuseaters_com on there. Let's go check that out. And also the conference itself. So this is a conference being put on by the Getter guys. This is on the December the 8th. So update on this, the Getter conference has been postponed until further notice. We will let people know as soon as we have more information. Apparently it was postponed thanks to the global freakout in response to the Omicron variant. So sorry about that. So if you'd like to get access to all that premium content, you can subscribe at lotuseaters.com. Thank you and goodbye.